What's up, TCCTU and ORU? It is Samson here again for another episode of The Fitting Room, and we're here in the summer season, and even though this may be a shorter season than some of the previous ones, we're still here, and we're still dropping videos, and we're still listening to stories, creating that environment or culture of listening is loving, because listening is loving. And so thank you for being a part of that. Thank you for tuning in for this episode. And I am excited because in this episode, we're going to be diving into a special individual story. And we're going to be hearing from our girl, Kennedy. What's up, homie? Tell us about yourself.
Hi, what's up? My name is Kennedy. I am a TCC student and a theater major. I know everybody's already like, oh, she doesn't want to make any money. She must be allergic to it. And I just started up my second year at TCC. I am not entirely sure when I'll be graduating. It will be sometime in 2027, but I think it honestly just depends on how many classes I want to throw onto myself at a time this upcoming year.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, thank you so much for joining and being brave to share your story. I'm excited to be able to dive in and hear it.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Yes. And so tell us, how did you get here?
So I have only lived in Tulsa since, oh my goodness, let me think. Last November, like November of 2025, I was a senior in high school, and I moved out on my own as a McKinney-Vento student. And for anyone listening that doesn't know what McKinney-Vento is.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Yeah, McKinney-Vento basically means that I was not emancipated necessarily. An emancipated student can become a McKinney-Vento student, but it basically just meant that I became an independent student responsible for myself. I became my own guardian. I was responsible for excusing my own absences. I became responsible for signing my own permission slips for things.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, receiving all the kinds of emails that a parent would receive because I became my own guardian.
And this happened when?
November of 2025. Yes.
And you said you were a senior?
I was a senior, yes, but I replaced all of my classes with concurrent classes online at TCC. That way I could stay on track on the path that I wanted to take through college, but also that gave me the opportunity to work during the day since I was supporting myself.
That's cool. I didn't even know that was an option for people to do.
Yeah, I was 18 at the time, and so it was a pretty seamless transition. But yeah, I went to Coweta, and they do offer and allow for you to replace your cores with college classes, so you can get dual credit. And then I also did job out. I don't know if any of the Tulsa schools offer job out necessarily, but it basically just means I turn in my pay stubs once a month, and I get a class or two out of my block for it.
Oh, that's nice. So in making that transition, what brought you to saying like, hey, this is something I want to do?
I think it was just growing up, my parents always looked at me and were just like, you're very independent, and we know that you are going to run away and move out the very moment that you can. And I think that honestly, me and my parents did not get along very well as I was growing up, just for whatever reasons that we had at the time. And I think I needed to make that decision for myself to strengthen our relationship. But also, I think I'm just a very independent person. I craved independence so much. And while it was very difficult moving out as a senior in high school, I mean, it was very relieving. I felt very free, and I felt very responsible for myself. And it's definitely not an experience that I would go back and change, even though there were difficulties in doing so.
Yeah, no, that's fair. Okay, so just out of curiosity, when you made the decision and when it happened and everything was signed, everything was done, and you were like out of the house, how did that feel? Was it a great relief? Was it kind of like intimidated? Like, okay, this is going to be an interesting journey?
Yeah, it was honestly very relieving. I don't know. Like, I feel like a lot of people were like, oh my gosh, this is so scary. Like, I'm so scared for you. Do you think you're going to be able to afford it? Do you think you're going to be able to do it? And I was like, I got it. Like, I'm going to figure it out. But I remember it definitely was a very So that day was a school day. The day that I moved into my first apartment was a school day, but I only had one class in the morning at school. So I remember going to class that morning, talking to everyone, being like, oh my gosh, I'm about to go move into my first apartment, and then rushing home to pack everything up into my little sedan. And then I had my friend Olive come over, and my friend Matt came over and helped me move. And I remember I had like all of my friends over that night, which I feel really bad for my downstairs neighbor at the time, because I definitely was the stereotypical upstairs neighbor that night. I had a lot of people over just to celebrate my new space with me. But no, I was definitely very relieved, and I was very excited. I think there were very few fears in my mind, but I'm also just someone that's like, if I want to do something, I'm gonna do it, you know? And I always just have this deep sense of, if it's what I truly want and if it's what's truly good for me, then it is going to work out, and I am going to make it work however necessary.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I'm really curious, because to hear, I mean, I know myself, and sometimes I'm like, if I could be home right now, if I like, where do you get the confidence? Like, when did this confidence start, where you felt like you can venture out and do these type of things on your own? Or
I think my confidence honestly did begin with theater. I started doing theater in the 6th grade. I was still living in Texas at the time, though, and there was a program called Drama Kids. I don't actually know if it's a thing in Oklahoma, but Drama Kids, yeah, it was an outside of school program. I would go up every single day to rehearsals, and I think honestly that is what helped me build my confidence. I grew up with diagnosed social anxiety, and I think a lot of people don't realize that social anxiety looks different on different people. Some people are really shy, but me personally, I am the kind of socially anxious person where I just cannot shut my mouth. And so theater was definitely a good outlet and helped me build my confidence. And it's definitely an ongoing struggle, and it probably will be for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
But something that I like to always tell people, I usually apply this more so to dating advice than anything else, but I think it's applicable in other fields, is that you aren't for everyone. You aren't going to be for everyone, even if you are a great person. And the way that I compare it is that I say people are like items on a menu. You know, you could be a 5-star meal and you could be absolutely delicious, and then someone could just not like chicken. You know, that's just how it is, you know? And so you aren't for everyone. And I think people need to stop trying to be digestible for every audience, because it's not going to work. And that's definitely what helped me build my confidence, was realizing that not everyone has to like me. And I know people that don't like me, you know, and I'm comfortable with that. I feel perfectly comfortable with that, because I'm like, you know what, it's just, I know that I've got great things to offer in life. That just doesn't mean that I'm for everyone. Just because I'm great or because I'm good at something doesn't mean that everyone has to appreciate that about me. And there are people that I know that they have great qualities to them, and they're just not for me. You know?
No, that's fair.
And so that definitely helped me build my confidence, was once I finally came to that realization, and then it just became so much easier being outwardly myself.
No, I like that. I like the menu idea, because it's like, some people just don't like chicken. Some people might even be allergic to chicken. They're like, I'm gonna just stay over here.
Exactly. You know, not every good thing in life has to be for you. And that's how it is. And realizing that and learning to accept that helped me get out of my shell a lot, and it helped me meet a lot of great people that I was for, you know, because I have a lot of great people in my life that I was for, and they were like, wow, this is delicious.
and that's cool. It's amazing when you find people who not only, and this is just kind of what I'm hearing from your friends and different things, but it's almost like, you know, you find these people who not only like chicken, but even compliment it, right? That you like them, they like it's like a whole vibe.
Right, exactly. I mean, everybody knows there are certain things that go together, you know, like peanut butter and jelly. We compliment each other.
Come on.
Not that I think peanut butter and jelly is necessarily served in a restaurant, but I think it's still a decent example.
Yes. No, that's good. Okay, so you started kind of developing this confidence more in social circles. Was there ever kind of like a point or period where you find yourself developing confidence when it comes to, say, like adventure or like venturing out and doing something kind of more independent wise?
I definitely would say so. Something that I like to do that I think everybody should do for themselves is I love to go out on dates by myself, you know, because I think I just think it's a really freeing experience. And so those are some adventures I started to take by myself once I moved out. Is every now and again I'm just like, you know what? I have a free day. I'm not going to hit up my friends, because that's a bad habit I have. Is anytime I have a free second, I'm like, I need to be hanging out with somebody. I need to be doing something with someone else. But some days I'll just look at myself and I'll be like, I need a Kennedy day. I need a day completely by myself, and I'm going to go out thrifting. I'm going to go to my favorite restaurant. And you know what?
Yep.
The server is probably going to look at me weird for sitting there by myself and enjoying myself, but that's okay. And that's definitely an adventure that I love to take by myself sometimes, is to just go out by myself and enjoy myself. Yeah, definitely.
No,
But
that's cool.
I think it's also very important as an independent person to have certain dependencies. You know, I'm not entirely like, because I think some people, when they hear the word independent, they're like, oh, she doesn't think she needs anyone. She's, you know, she's rocking and rolling by herself. But I
Yeah.
think dependency is still super important. And I think balance is necessary everywhere. Everything in moderation. Everything in moderation, including my independence. And so
Yeah.
I definitely do have some good social circles and social events that I rely on as well for my health.
That's cool. You know, it's cool to hear that you understand how much you gravitate, or you know, how much independency comes naturally for you, but also recognizing, hey, at the same time, I recognize that everyone still needs to be dependent to an extent, right? Like there's this balance that needs to happen.
Right.
And I'm curious, was this something that was given to you through like experience, like learning the hard way, like you went through something that like taught you this, or was it something that someone educated you on, or you felt maybe naturally just kind of came through?
I think everything that I am and ever will be influenced by something external. And I just think that's how life is. I can't pinpoint an exact moment or experience in my life that made me the way I am, because I'm a collection of everything. Every
Yeah.
bad thing that's ever happened to me, every good thing that's ever happened to me, everything is me, you know?
Mhm.
And so I couldn't say that there's an exact point in my life that I started to feel that way, but I was always just a very introspective child and very reflective. And as I've grown older, I've definitely tried to recognize it more and to, like, I guess, hone in on it more and become more introspective and to just think about things more. Something I always tell my friends is that you need to have experiences on both sides. You need to have good and bad experiences, because they all make you who you are. Because if you just experience good things all the time, it's all going to eventually just level out here, and then it's nothing. And I think once you stop growing mentally, you're dead. It's death. It's a form of death. And yeah, I feel like I went off on a tangent a little bit there,
No,
but
you're good.
yeah, my
You're
point
good.
was that I don't think there's anything specific that made me the way that I am. I think it's just everything that I've ever experienced on top of everything I will ever experience.
Yeah.
That's just me.
No, that's cool. That's cool. Okay, so I'm tracking and going backwards, but talked about theater and its influence in helping you develop this confidence. We talked about you making this kind of venture to moving out senior halfway through your senior year, it sounds like.
Yeah, like part of the way through my first semester.
Okay,
So
part
yeah,
of the
about
way.
halfway through.
About halfway through. Okay, so you move out, and then you're starting to figure out next steps for the journey and looking at college, looking at what the future looks like. So how did planning your future after senior year look like, being kind of more independent, your own guardian?
Being more independent, I will say that there definitely is a struggle thinking about my future, because I think the hardest part that I am a little bit jealous about the experience other people will get is the fact that I can't afford to take off any time from work while I'm going to school. You know, I can't afford to put a pause on my life and focus on school. And that is something that I definitely envy in other people. I'm going to work with it. I'm going to work with what I've got. But that definitely is something that I envy. And honestly, switching to a theater major, that was only like a month or two ago decision. I have wanted to be a teacher my entire life. Like, from pretty much the moment that I learned how to speak, I knew I wanted to be a teacher. I mean, my older brother, I used to sit him down in my room and make him read all my books, and then I'd make him write essays, and I would grade them. And this is in the second grade. I didn't want to play tag. I wanted to play teacher.
Yep.
But I recently switched over to theater because I've always had a great passion for theater as well. But I think I just don't agree with the compensation and the way that teachers are treated currently, and I would
Yeah.
love to eventually pursue education again because it is a great passion for me. But I think until we see a change in our country, and especially the state of Oklahoma, I do not think it is for me for the time being, which is so
Yeah.
painful to say because I love working with kids and I love being a teacher. I mean, I've worked in daycares before, and then I used to tutor different classes in elementary schools, and
Mm-hmm.
it really is such an emotionally fulfilling experience. But I think theater is definitely still a good route for me, and that I
Yeah.
do have a similar passion for it.
No, that's true. You know, I I definitely feel like what you're saying about teachers and this whole thing is so real because there's so many people. There's people that we even had on the podcast who are pursuing that, and they recognize that there's this huge gap, and that influences that whole decision. And so one of the questions that I have, and I guess I'm just curious about, so like when you look at kind of this route with the teachers and um, lack of compensation, lack of sometimes even the support needed. At the same time, the theater journey, do you see that being kind of like how do you see that developing into like a better opportunity than teaching?
Well, I would eventually like to, because once I finish up at TCC, I do plan on transferring to either OSU or NSU to
Mm-hmm.
finish out my bachelor's, but I would like to take on a minor in either education or child development
Mm-hmm.
because I think the idea of being a theater teacher would be
Ooh.
super duper sick.
Okay. Okay.
But I've become a lot more interested in theater as a career recently because of Miss Frank up at TCC and her
Mm-hmm.
talking about intimacy coordinating, and that just like clicked in my brain. I love the idea of intimacy coordinating, but I'm also really passionate about writing, and so I love the idea of playwriting. I cannot necessarily say that I think I will be more fulfilled by theater than by teaching,
Mm-hmm.
but again, just as someone who used to work as an assistant teacher, at a daycare, I was working full time over the summer, and sometimes I would be leading a room of toddlers by myself, from 10 to 15 toddlers by myself for
Yeah.
$10 an hour. And I don't think people realize how insane that is. $10 an hour, that's not even a dollar per child that I'm watching. And I think more people should be more scared and more aware of how undercompensated teachers are
Mm-hmm.
for what they do. We're literally spending all day taking care of other people's children and guiding them into the people that they're going to be.
Yep.
And I'm doing that for $10 an hour.
That's real. That's real. It almost sounds like the theater route combines your passion for teaching alongside of your passion for theater. So it's like I'm able to do, I'm able, you know, for the sake of the saying, kill two birds with one stone. I'm able to venture out on this. And I wonder, just from hearing you talk, so you mentioned that you have a passion for writing. So when it comes to theater, what are the different aspects? And I'm curious about the intimacy. What was the thing you said?
Intimacy coordinating.
I'm interested in that. I'm interested in a lot of what you're saying right now.
I am just deeply passionate about being alive. I think I have a lot of different passions, and I don't know if any theater nerds are watching, but if you know Christine Canigula from Be More Chill, that's right up my alley. She has a whole song where she talks about how it makes her want to break out in hives because she can't work every job ever and experience everything. And that's just, I feel that so deeply in my soul. I am just passionate about everything. I love to write, I love to read, I love to crochet. If I could live 1,000 lives and work every job that's out there, I still wouldn't be content. I'm just deeply passionate about a lot of things. But on intimacy coordinating can look a little different depending on what project you're working on. And intimacy coordinators work on a lot of different things: movies, shows, plays, all sorts of things. But basically, they're responsible for making sure actors are comfortable with physicality together. And that could be sexual relations, making sure that a sex scene goes by smoothly with both actors being comfortable. But also in some cases, it could just be choreographing a hug between two actors that might not be super comfortable with each other.
Yeah.
I think when a lot of people hear the word intimacy, they assume that it's about sexual relations, but it can be about a lot of different things.
Yeah.
And that's just something that strikes me as a really interesting career, because I just love people, and it's almost like the HR of theater, you know, and I just love people and
that's a good one. The HR theater.
the HR of theater. And so that's I feel very deeply connected to the idea of working in a field like that. And then as far as writing goes, I love writing so much. You could ask so many different people. It's hard to find me without a pen and paper. I love to write, and playwriting, I think, is just really interesting because also I think that writing plays and writing musicals and whatnot is very different from writing a movie or a show, just in the like, I don't even know how to explain it. I just feel like stories on a screen are very different from stories on a stage, and I think playwriting specifically for stories on a stage tickles me, I guess.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. There's like three things in my brain that I'm like juggling and want to talk about. So on one end, I'll just go back to the intimacy coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
So is their job essentially is their job more like we want to help it like look good on the screen, make it look real and authentic on the screen. At the same time, we want to make sure that these guys are comfortable. Are they like the mitigators in both of those worlds or just one of those worlds? I'm just here to make sure you feel comfortable.
I would say both.
Okay.
That it's definitely very important to make it look real and authentic. And the first time I heard really about intimacy coordinating was when Miss Frank was the intimacy coordinator on for Heather's the Musical.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you're familiar with it, but there is a specific scene where JD and Veronica do some things, and she talked about it in one of her classes about what was necessary to make sure both actors were comfortable with each other. And she describes things I was like, wow, I never even thought about it before.
Yeah.
I thought it was just like wham bam, get on top of each other, and then that's the scene.
That's the scene.
You know, but she talked about in depth the conversations that she had to have with them to make sure both of them were comfortable in their interactions together. And I just thought it was really interesting because from the audience's point of view, because I did go and see that production, you don't even notice like the little things that they're doing to make sure they don't touch each other in certain ways, because she just coordinated it in a way where it was so smooth and seamless and it still looked authentic, but it kept both of the actors comfortable at the same time. And I think that's really interesting.
Oh, that is cool. That's fascinating. I didn't even know that was a thing. So even hearing that is just, you know, because sometimes you hear someone's major, you hear like what someone's doing, and it's like, oh, what are you studying? Oh, you're studying, you know, how to do this, right? Like, oh, you're doing theater, you're just learning how to get up on the stage and talk to people.
Right. Most people, when they hear theater major, they assume you're going for acting, which I am still very passionate about acting.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been in, I think, 14, 15 productions. I think this last one that I just finished out was my 14th production I've been in. So I do love acting, but that's not necessarily my focus going into being a theater major.
Yeah. But when you share what you're sharing, it's like, it broadens the view like crazy, because now it's like, oh, you can intimacy coordinator, like, yo, wait, what? So
there
no,
are
that's cool.
so many hands that work together that make productions work. A lot of people look at it and they're like, oh, you've got the director, the actors, the sound, and the lights, and that's what you've got. But in professional theater, there are so many hands on deck making a production look good and making sure everyone works well together. And I'm really glad to be able to share that here, because I want more people to realize that, like, not everything's like black and white. It's not like, oh, you're a theater major, you're going to be an actor. Oh, you're an English major, that means you're going to be a writer. You know, there are so many opportunities for careers out there that I think everyone should take the opportunity to explore. And I think people should like really deep dive into their major and see what exactly can this get me to, because there's so many different things you can do with one major.
Yeah, no, that's so true. Another thought that was in my mind as you were talking is you talked about the difference between writing for a stage and writing for a screen, that they're different in a sense, and that you're more passionate about writing for the stage. And I guess I'm curious, what is a difference, or maybe not that question. Instead, what stands out to you about writing for a stage that the screen doesn't really offer? And it could just be one thing. You ain't got to dive into a whole.
Right. I feel like writing, or just, I feel like performances in general on the screen are so much different from the stage, because performing for a screen allows for so many more mistakes. It allows for more editing, and the expressions, I think, are allowed to be smaller and more realistic, but on the stage there's not as much opportunity for mistakes. Visual effects, they have to be done really well, because you can't edit in special effects when someone's up on a stage, you know what I mean? And then everything's just bigger, everything is bigger, less authentic, but I think in a way that makes it a lot more fun. I like when things are a little more absurd and out there.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And those are pieces that someone, at least for me, I don't really think about when it comes to the screen. Yeah, you can pause for a second, edit, reposition certain things, keep it going, and just in the edit make it look clean and seamless. But on the stage, it's like this whole thing has to flow. The image that comes to my mind is it's almost like finding the right flow of like a river. I'm just saying all these pieces have to flow in.
Right, and the actors
So
and the
it's
people
smooth.
on stage have to be largely responsible for making certain effects or sleight of hands look good.
Yeah.
I can't just edit it in and be like, bing bang boom, it's gonna move around you. They have to help with the illusion a lot,
Oh
and I
yeah.
think that's super interesting to try and direct and write.
Okay. So all right. So your transition from being more like in the educational space and going into the theater space, when did that transition officially happen?
It officially happened, I think. Let me think. It would have just been like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, that I went to the student office at TCC, and I was like, I'm ready to switch my major to theater. I had thought about it for a little bit, but I think my greatest fear in it was letting people down or disappointing someone, because, well, I think people judge the arts and judge being a teacher pretty equally. They're going to be like, oh, you're allergic to money. Like, you don't want to make any money.
Allergic to money is
And
hilarious.
I know. That's how I always think about it. Is they're like, oh, they're gonna think that I want to live poor, but I think there is a certain judgment that comes in switching to the arts, because I think especially with social media, so many more people, more now than ever, want to be artists and want to pursue that field of either being an influencer or being a social media manager and all sorts of different things. So I think there is a certain judgment that comes at pursuing the arts. Because I don't think people understand how many career opportunities there are in the arts. Everyone's just like, oh, you want to be an actor, you want to be famous. Everybody wants to be famous. But I think I started to realize that especially the film industry and the theater industry in Oklahoma are growing so quickly, so rapidly in these past couple of years, and I'm watching it, and it made me feel a lot more firm in my decision. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to pursue this. I'm young. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. But at least I tried. At least I tried. And I realized again how many opportunities there are in the theater industry. And I wasn't like, it's not just like go famous or go home. It's, I could be behind the scenes, and there are so many other things that I could work on.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so true. Sometimes we get caught up in what a lot of other people are saying, and I like that you said that you're standing firm in this decision, and seeing what's happening in Tulsa helps with that a lot. When was it that you said, was it sixth grade when you first did theater?
That is, yes, sixth grade is when I did my first drama production. It was Mystery Under the Rooftop. It was about a circus.
Ooh, that's nice. That's nice. And what motivated you to getting involved in theater, or what led to, hey, I'm gonna try this out?
I'm gonna say it was my older brother, because my older brother was also super into theater. He started going to theater camps and stuff when he was in the third grade. And I just remember watching him on stage, even though he was typically one of the side characters or ensemble, I just remember watching him on stage and being like, this is the coolest thing in the world. And so I finally convinced my parents. I was like, please, can I try it? Because I just thought he was the coolest person, watching him up on stage. And I was like, I want to be just like that. And then once I finally tried it, I was like, wow, I enjoy this so much. And then my brother, as I was going into middle school, he was like, you should really take theater with Ms. Bentz, because that was the theater teacher at the middle school we both went to. He was like, you should really try out theater with Ms. Bentz. I think she'd love you, and I think you'd really love it, and she's a great director. and then I just kept going, and I never stopped.
That's cool. You know, you said something earlier, something in my brain just clicked for a second. You mentioned how like you dealt with like this kind of like social anxiety, and one of the things that I'm like thinking about right now is I know a couple people who deal with social anxiety, but for some reason when they do some type of play and they're encouraged to do this play and they're willing to do this play, there's something that comes out that makes them bypass some of that. I'm curious to know for you, right? Like
That's definitely how I would describe it, because I'm someone to this day. I mean, I've been in theater now for, oh my gosh, 7-8 years, and I still, every single time before I go on stage, I am shaking in my boots, and I turn to my castmates and I'm like, I don't know if I can go on. I don't know if I can go on this time. Even though I've been doing it for years upon years upon years, I still get so anxious. But then the moment I get on stage, it's like I'm a completely different person. I'm that person. And that's part of what helps me get over my social anxiety is I'm like, I'm a different person right now. So if they're judging someone, they're not judging me. They're judging whoever I have to be for this play.
Yeah.
You know, and whoever's out there, unless they're very, very familiar with the production I'm doing, they don't know how it's supposed to be played.
That's
They
true.
don't know what it's supposed to look like. They don't know what the best and worst version of this performance looks like. So I'm just going to get out there and give it my best.
Yeah. And so when you're in that role, being someone else kind of almost brings you a level of peace in the moment, even though because that's what happens with some of the people I'm thinking. I'm like, I know they get so nervous right before, but then when they're up there, I'm just like, they look flawless. Like they look like, like this looks amazing.
Right, and that's like part of my method when it comes to acting is I just separate myself. I'm not Kennedy playing said character. I just am that character.
Yeah.
And that's also part of the reason. So I have eidetic memory.
Sorry, say that again.
Eidetic memory. It's a symptom of autism, and I do have autism, but eidetic memory just basically means I have an easy time memorizing things pretty easily. Like, even if I just look at them once, or if I read something once, I'm like, I've got that in my brain, Mine probably isn't to the extent that some people's are, because I know some people with crazy eidetic memory, but I do have it to an extent. And so my method when it comes to acting is I try to read my script as little as possible before a performance. I read it as many times as I need to at least get it down and memorized, but I try not to overread it because it makes my reactions and my characters less authentic. And I just try to think about the lines as I'm having a conversation and this is what would make sense for me to say in conversation because I am this character.
Yep. No, that's cool. Okay, so in the time frame, so I'm trying to track a little bit. So you've been doing theater, but now you've changed your major to theater. So what's the difference between what you have been doing in doing theater to now your major is theater?
Well, for starters, theater in middle school and high school, especially because I went to kind of poor schools, sorry, Kawita, it's definitely a different form of education because those theater classes are more just like drama. They focus on the acting side of things and not the technical side, or here's the history of theater, here's how we got where we are today in theater. It just focuses on the acting side of it. And so taking on a theater major, I've been, even just in this past semester, I've been going more in depth and learning a lot more about the theater world outside of acting. So for those like 7 years that I've been in theater, it was just acting. That makes
sense.
And now I'm actually learning like the history, and I'm learning about different productions and writers and, the history of theater. So that's definitely the largest difference is you learn more about the inner workings rather than just how to get up on a stage and what to do up there.
That's cool. So since changing your major, you've already taken a class this last.
Yeah,
you took a summer class.
Yeah, I took Intro to Theater over this summer.
Nice. That's cool. Well, this is so beautiful hearing how all these pieces kind of flow together, and how you're like now in it, and it's cool to like catch people in transitions, versus like if we would have sat down and talked last year, it would have been this is the direction I'm going, but now it's like you're in it and you're doing the thing, and so right now in your life, like what are some things that are happening currently, like what are some maybe some opportunities, maybe some challenges. What's going on in your world?
Right. So in the past couple of weeks, I've started working with this group called The Project. It is a group in Tulsa. Gosh, how do I even describe it? It's like, We every Sunday do scrap shop from 5 to 9, and it's basically just encouraging artists and creators, young creators in Tulsa, to come out, make friends, do some arts and crafts, and get to know each other and build a community. And so that's the whole purpose of the project, is community and getting to know other people and getting to know other creatives. And definitely, I would say, even though I've only been helping out with the project and at that venue for a couple of weeks now, it's definitely gotten my creative juices flowing. Like, I finally picked up my guitar again for the first time in months and have just been going at it, writing songs, making music, having a good time, because I'm surrounded by other people that love to create, and it's a very like warm, loving community, and I'm really appreciative of the time that I've had there so far. And that's been what's going on in my life recently. I mean, I've been spending, this is like the first day in weeks that I haven't been doing something out there related to it, either helping reach out to local bands to try and get them out for some of our concerts, or out there organizing closets or decorating something. Like, there's always something to do. There's always something to do, and we are constantly growing and moving, and that's just beautiful to me, because I think we should always be in transition, of some sort. Not necessarily like drowning in change all of the time, but I think we should always be in some sort of transition, and that's definitely how it feels up there working on all of that. We're constantly in transition and working towards something else, and it's really nice. It's a really nice feeling.
It almost sounds like the whole idea of we should always be in transition goes back to what you were talking about earlier with like growing. We should always be growing. And if we're not growing, then we're essentially dead.
Yeah, then you're dead. If you're not growing, it's a form of death, because you're not going anywhere, you're not offering anything, which, not to say that you always have to offer something outward, but you should be offering something to yourself internally at all times. But yeah, I think we should always be growing, and that's one of the things I love about the project at Park Grove, is that we're constantly growing and working towards new things and thinking, hey, how can we make our community better? How can we make it stronger? How can we get more people out here? How can we make more friends?
And it sounds like in that process, like, you've been growing, like, even if it's getting art juices, getting your guitar out, writing music. So is writing music something that you've always, like, I'm trying to figure out, has writing music been something that you've always been able to do, but now finally had the time to do it? Or is this something that you've always kind of done randomly, but now you're more consistent? Like, how has that changed?
I think I've always had at least an interest for music, because, again, I'm a very deeply passionate person, just about being alive, about experiencing new things, but I love all forms of art. I love to write, I love to sing, I love to make music, I love to crochet and draw and do everything. I like to dabble in a little bit of everything, but I liked to write poetry more so when I was younger. That was something that I would do, and then I would show my therapist my poems, and she'd be like, oh my gosh, what are you writing? Put the pen down. And then I think now, as I've gotten older, I've just become a lot more comfortable with it, using it as an outlet. Anytime I feel anything like deeply emotional, I'm like, I just want to write this. I want to make music out of it. I want to create something even out of hardship, because I think every experience that I have can be made into something beautiful or something worth something. And so it was something I was mildly interested in when I was younger, but I think I've become a lot more passionate about it now than ever. Especially now that I'm surrounded by so many creative people that also like to create. Like, seeing their art encourages me, It encourages me to make more art as well and put more art out into the world, because I think we always need more art. I don't think we will ever have enough art in this world.
That's true. So I know this may sound, I don't know, maybe I'm fishing here. I'm not trying to, but it's just a thought that came in my mind. So like, what are your thought processes about like AI art? Like, are you kind of like, you ain't even gotta say it. I'm not
deeply
really trying.
Troubled. I think that AI art, that's not art. It's not, because art is about people and it's about feelings, and AI can't do that. AI can't feel, and so it cannot create something with feeling. It can't do that. And I think that not enough people, and I know a lot of older people that do this, they're not realizing the harm that AI is having on our community, and that I just don't think they're understanding that the influence that it's having, you know, because some people think, oh, I'm just making a funny image of me and my friends, or, oh, I'm just editing a funny video of my dog, you know. But the issue is that there is a supply and demand, and the more that we demand AI and the more that we demand creation with it, the greater the supply is going to become until we can't tell what is and isn't AI anymore. You know, and I think we're already reaching that issue where, like, I remember one day I was serving this table, these two older women, and they were looking at videos together and going, oh my gosh, this is so crazy, because it was like a AI video of like a lion sitting at someone's doorstep, and they didn't realize that it was AI. They were like, how'd that lion get into this neighborhood? And I walked up, I was like, I am so sorry, ladies, that's AI, that's fake. And they were like, really? How do you know? And I'm like, you can look at it, like, there's the watermark right there, like, that's fake. And they were just so, like, deeply shocked by it, because it's getting better. It's getting better, and soon it's going to start to look like, because nobody's worried about it when they're just using it for funny stuff or making memes, but you're going to get worried once it starts to look like you and the people that you love. That's why I think the only form of AI that I really support is Ecosia, because for one, it's a search engine, and basically, like, the more users that they get, the more searches, they plant trees and they help our environment. But one thing they do not offer is generative AI. They offer AI that will answer questions or help you with research, but they do not offer generative AI through their service.
And that's called what?
Ecosia. It's a search engine. I definitely recommend downloading it. I'm not like a plug or anything. I like Ecosia.
No, that's fair. And it's real. And I, at least from what I'm hearing you say, you're saying AI is taking away one of the biggest factors that makes us human, which is our ability to write, poetry, art, like the ability to create. I mean that's what makes us makes us who we are.
And again, I'm someone that believes in everything in moderation. Okay, I do think that my philosophy on it is that, yes, use AI to help you gather ideas, but do not let it create ideas for you. You know, I think it can be a useful search engine. I think it can be useful for research and for gathering information, like articles and whatnot, but we can't let it create ideas or information for us, and we shouldn't be letting it create art or images or that kind of thing for us, because again, the issue is that it's becoming a lot better because we keep demanding for it to get better.
No, that's real. And this question kind of came to my mind, and the question was, who would we be as humans if we weren't creative? I mean, I don't know, that just popped in my head.
If we weren't creative, we wouldn't be sitting in this room right now with ceiling tiles and a television and cameras facing us and these microphones, and we wouldn't be wearing the clothes we're wearing. We would be, I don't know, somewhere running around outside, foraging or hunting. And I don't think people understand what creative means. Creative doesn't just mean you have to be good at making art. Creative is everything. Everything that we've created was creative, okay? And so once we lose our creativity, we will stop evolving, we will stop moving forward, and that is essentially a death. Once we grow stagnant and we stop creating our own ideas, we're dead, we're gone. Even if we're sitting right here, we're gone.
Yeah. Man, I'm gonna be chewing on that for a while.
We're living in a kind of scary world.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, because it's like, you know, some people, they look at AI as like the evolution of the humans. It's like, oh, it might be the death of the humans too if we're not careful in how we utilize it. So
I'm kind of like a mild conspiracy theorist, and I definitely do believe that this big push of AI is a political tool, because soon we're not going to be able to tell what our politicians are and really aren't up to, because it'll be so easy for them to go, oh, well, that's AI. I didn't say that. I didn't do that. You don't have any real proof. Videos and images are going to stop becoming as reliable of proof of anything, because we're letting AI get as good as it's getting. Photos and videos are going to stop being as good of proof, and that is terrifying, because if you can't prove it with a photo or video anymore without having to justify whether it's AI or not, what are we going to be able to prove?
Yeah, that's It's a very interesting world we're walking into. I can agree with you on that. This is a very interesting world we're about to walk into, and yeah, what to believe. Because you're right. It's like typically they'll bring a video camera in or a photograph, and now it's gonna be like, well, how do we know?
Yeah, how do you know it's real? Because I mean, there have been times before that, like, just as like a little research for myself or a little test for myself, I'll AI generate something with one like AI service and then go to another and ask, is this AI or not? And it goes, no.
Yeah.
They can't recognize themselves anymore. And
Yeah.
that's when it becomes terrifying, is when AI can't even recognize itself anymore.
Yeah. And you know, and I'm sure like the government's gonna do something to try to regulate it, but I mean, I have my own conspiracy thoughts. I don't know, like how regulated is it gonna be? I don't know, but
And honestly, I don't even necessarily believe that even if it is regulated, that it's going to do us much good. The damage has already been done.
Yep.
We've already come as far as we are, and I don't think the government is going to regulate anything truly unless it benefits them to regulate it.
That's real. I'm sorry, because I feel like I brought up AI. We just went on a whole tangent.
No, I definitely appreciate the
just-
opportunity to talk about it,
yeah.
because I'm going to look at the camera for this one. I want you to be scared. I want you to be scared,
She
and
said, "I'll watch."
I want you to think about these things, you know,
Yep.
because I think as a society we've become so passive in relation to some of these things. What is it called? Memetic warfare. My friends hear me say this term a lot. Basically, it is the concept that once something is created into a meme and is joked about it enough, we become passive to it. You know, I'm not going to go too into detail, but, you know, just like a lot of the...
What is the word you...
Memetic warfare.
Meme?
Yeah, so, like,
warfare.
for example, even if you have an opinion about something, like, you know, I'm not going to go super into depth, but, like, for example, even if you have a certain opinion on immigration, once you see it memed on enough and you see enough people making jokes about it, you become passive to it. And then once you see it, you're just like, this is a joke, or, oh, you know, it's not that serious, you know? And we're starting to take things less seriously. And so, yes, be scared of AI, be scared of where it's going. Because, you know, the moment we stop being scared and we just become passive and let it do its thing, or let people do whatever they want with it, it's already won.
Yeah. And it's called you call it
memetic warfare.
Okay, memetic warfare. No, that's interesting. Yeah, there's a lot of... It's interesting how the way that sometimes I look at it, it's like ruthless. The internet can be ruthless, like just making memes about anything can happen, and all of a sudden you see
Yeah,
it.
we are in a very insensitive and jaded time because of the internet, because everything's a joke. Everything has to be laughable, because we don't want to have to feel anything negative, because social media and the internet has absolutely destroyed our dopamine receptors, where we constantly feel like things have to make us happy or make us feel good. And so we avoid negative emotions by making jokes about really serious things that are happening to people. You know,
Yeah.
We live in a really scary country right now, and I don't think people are taking the time to feel the negative things they need to be feeling. Again, I think feeling bad things is extremely important to our character, because if you're just feeling good things all of the time, it's all just right here and it's all numb. But I think social media has definitely destroyed that for people, and people feel the need to feel good all of the time about things, or find it funny, or find the need to laugh about everything.
You know, you said something that's just making me think. I wonder. I guess I'm curious about how has theater in your time influenced your ability to feel the full scope of emotions, right? Because when whether you're writing or whether you are like acting, or, you know, even, I guess, an intimacy coordinator, I feel like all of those pieces deal with learning to like you have to understand emotion, otherwise, like all of them, right? Like you got to understand joy, got to understand sorrow, like you got to understand all these pieces.
I think it's because...
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's because when you're working in theater, or when you're participating in theater, I should say more so, is you learn how essential every emotion is to the inner workings of a scene. You know, because when you're acting, I can act angry, I can act sad, I can feel all of these different things, and understand how important they are to the story. And so I think it definitely gives me a different perspective once I walk off the stage, because I'm like, that's what it's all about. All of these feelings are so important to my story and to everyone else's story.
Yeah.
And that's why we need to be comfortable with being uncomfortable and with experiencing bad things, is because all of these negative emotions, sadness, anger, grieving, regret, they're all essential to our story just as much as being happy or joyful or, feeling good things are. And I think being an actor and participating in theater and even just watching it makes you realize how important these things are to the story and to our story.
Yeah. No, that is beautiful. And I feel like it adds also, and I don't remember if you said this before we started recording or while we were recording, but I remember you saying something about how, like, the bad things that happen in your life and the good things, like, you value both of those, like, the same. I think you said it while we were recording, but that you value both of those the same. And I sometimes I get the impression that the world that we live in is more about trying to experience good emotions and avoid the bad.
Exactly.
And
I would definitely agree. Once again, I think social media has a large part to play in that, making people feel like they have to feel something good all of the time, whether it's receiving likes or whether it's seeing something funny, or we always feel the need to feel something good. And if I can do one thing while I'm on this planet, I want people to feel more comfortable being uncomfortable and to realize how important it is.
Yeah.
Which it can definitely be difficult to think about in the moment, because I've had family members pass, I've experienced bad things, I've lost friends before, and in the moment, of course, I'm not sitting there and being like, well, it's for the best, right? I'm not going to do that, but I'm saying that it's important to at least eventually come around to that idea of looking at these bad things that have happened and been like, that was an important thing that I needed, and it got me to where I am now.
Yeah.
Everything causes everything, Even the smallest little things that have happened in my life that have either been inconvenient or extremely convenient have led me to be sitting where I am right now and to be the person that I am and that I'm going to be.
No, that's deep. That's rich. Okay, so as you're, like, we've covered a lot of different pieces, and so now kind of like looking forward to the future, when you like look at your life and you look at just where you want to land, where you want to end up, where you see yourself, where is it exactly that you see yourself going, whether with theater or in the next 5 years, 10 years after you graduate?
It's a difficult question to answer. I'm going to answer it from the perspective I have right now, but you know what? I could wake up tomorrow with some sort of epiphany and be like, I need to change the course of my life today. But the only thing I can say for sure, because I'm not set on an exact career in theater, I know what I'm passionate about, and I know that there are certain careers that interest me, but the most that I can say is that my hope for the future is to impact people. And I think theater I will have that opportunity, but I want to impact people. I want to make people think more, and I want to make a change. I want to make a change, not necessarily on a large, like, worldwide scale. I want to make a change in someone's life, and that is my greatest goal. I think people are my purpose. For a long time I was like not a nihilist, but I was like, oh, life doesn't really have a purpose, just have fun and then get out of here. But now I truly do think my purpose is people, and I think it grew into that. I don't know if I was always born with that purpose, but I think that is what it became as I've grown up and as I've experienced the things that I've had. And so I think my purpose is people, and I want to, wherever I go after this and wherever I go in the future once I graduate, I want to service people and I want to make a change in someone's life. But I can definitely say from the perspective I'm at right now that I am really interested in playwriting. I've started writing up a couple and writing drafts and writing stories in my head. But I think that is something that deeply interests me, and I think that will be a way that I can make an impact on people.
Yeah. Through playwriting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Through telling different stories.
It's and I said this earlier, right? Like this sense of how you have like kind of this balance to you where it's like, I'm full on independent, going out there, experience life, and I also recognize I need to be dependent, or like AI, it's like, hey, you know, this thing, we need to be cautious, we need to be careful. At the same time, I see the benefits, right? Like you have like kind of this balance to you, and even emotions where it's like, yo, hey, you need to feel the good, but the bad is just as valuable, right? And there's something beautiful that can come from that. The reason I'm saying this is because from what I'm hearing, it sounds like theater has helped you to not only understand yourself, but it seems like it also helps you understand people. Maybe even help maybe in cultivating that love for people, at least from what I'm hearing.
I would definitely agree to that. That theater, especially because in theater, when you're working with people that closely and working on a story with them, you form families, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I would definitely say that, like, I was in drama at Coweta for 3 years, and the community that I built there, it just, you know, it's a family, you know? And I mean, I was just texting them this morning about coming out here and everything, you know, even though we haven't been going to school together for a while, we don't really hang out. That's still a forever family.
Yeah.
And I think theater helped me create a lot of connections that were essential to my growth and essential to the perspective that I have now, not only on the people that I've met, but also the people that I hope to meet, and even the audience. Like, I think theater definitely has helped shape my perspective on people and learn to love a lot deeper.
Yeah. No, that's cool. That's cool. And I mean, it was one of the things I always enjoy about being able to like listen to someone's story, seeing these dots connect and seeing how like people just grow to being who they are and continue to grow and evolve over time. Okay, I got a question, and I've been having that tattoo of a butterfly. What does that represent? I'm in my mind, I come up with all the things that it could represent from hearing your story, but I'm just curious because it's just been there, just like talking to me. Like,
This is actually supposed to be the Paramore butterfly. My tattoo artist did mess up just a tiny little bit, but yeah, it is the album cover of Paramore's album Brand New Eyes. I saw Paramore a couple years back at the BOK Center for their This Is Why tour, and I'm hoping to eventually like get badges from all the different concerts I've seen, because I've seen a lot of different artists. Okay, like just to name a couple of hot ones that people have probably heard of: Cave Town, Neon Tree, Zach Bryan, Matt Mason, Trampled by Turtles, Maggie Antone, Will Wood, Fish in a Birdcage.
crazy.
I've seen a lot of different concerts, and I want to get some badges for every concert that I've been to. But the Paramore one was the one I wanted to start with, because Paramore like has been one of my favorite bands since like the 5th grade. I'm really into Paramore. I love Hayley Williams.
I feel like after I leave here today, I'm gonna have to pop on a tune or two. So if you got a song recommendation,
you know Paramore, okay? Everybody knows Paramore. You have to. 'Cause after all this time, I'm
my
still
goodness, that's
into
them.
you. Yes, that's them.
Oh, that's crazy.
And then the you are the only exception.
That's
Yes.
okay.
You know
okay.
Paramore.
Yeah, my bad. Sorry.
No, you're perfectly fine. I'm just saying
It's
that,
so
you know.
funny. It's so funny that like we just live in a time frame where people just drop songs on the background of these like videos, and sadly, folks don't get credit. Well, at least not on the front screen get credit, but nonetheless, that's
always what I do,
cool.
though, when someone goes, oh, I haven't heard of this band. Like, whenever I went and saw Neon Trees, I had so many friends be like, who's the Neon Trees? And I was like, and I found out that everybody talks. And they're like, oh, it's that one. So I'm like, see, you've heard of them, even though you didn't know who I was talking about. You know now. You know who I was talking about.
Yeah, no, real. No, that's real. That's funny. Yeah. No, that's cool. Well, I definitely appreciate you for coming on, sharing your story. There's one thing I do like to do, just to kind of give the guests that come on an opportunity to like just share some wisdom, some thoughts, some advice for somebody who's maybe was in similar shoes, trying to navigate life. What advice would you have for someone who maybe is entering into the college space, and they're embarking on this kind of independent journey, and they're like, man, I don't know how to do this, or maybe they're trying to navigate balance in some of that emotion stuff. Maybe there's some things in their life that they're like, this is bad. I don't want to look at this. I want to look only at the good stuff and only find the good stuff. How do I learn to balance? And I'm going all over the place, but we talked about several things that are really good And so, what wisdom or advice do you have? I'll let you take it anywhere you want to take it. But
My closing pieces of advice are going to be one, I'm going to go back to this. Stop trying to be for everyone. Be who you are, and you'll be for someone. You know, you don't have to be for everyone. I think that's something a lot of college students need to realize because it's very nerve-wracking entering a new space with a lot of new people. You want to make all these friends, you want to be in every group, but eventually you're going to settle in and you're going to find your group. And then also, grades aren't everything. Okay, that was something. I was a student. I was in APs, honors, every extracurricular you can imagine in high school. Okay, so when I got my first C in a college class, I thought it was the end of the world. I cried my eyes out in the library and I was like, this is it. I'm the worst student in the world. But I think what's most important, yes, pass your classes, care about your grades to some extent, but you know, as long as you're passing and as long as you learned something from the course, that's what's most important, is that you learned something, you know. And yeah, I think that's my closing piece of advice is that, you know, keep up with your grades, obviously, you know, graduate, get out of here. Don't spend the rest of your life in college. But as long as you learned something from the course, a C or a B is not going to be the end of the world. It's not going to kill you. I thought it was going to kill me, but I mean, I'm here.
hey, that's the one. That's the one. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Yeah, a lot. It's very easy to get caught up in thinking that college isn't for you because you get like a C or something. It's like, wait, no, like you're good.
Yeah, like you're good. Life goes on, you know, as long as you're keeping up with your GPA and keeping up with your grades enough to stay in school and pass, you know, just learn something from the courses you're in. Because
Yeah.
I've had courses that like I got a C or a low B in, but I still learned a lot from them regardless, you know. Just because I missed an assignment or two doesn't mean I didn't learn something. So as long as you're learning something, you know, I think that's what matters at the end of the day.
100%.
That's what education is about, is learning, not just numbers or letters, or it's about learning.
Hey, that's the one. It's about learning. Well, definitely thank you, Kennedy. I appreciate you for coming on, for sharing, for being willing to dive into your story. This was nice.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciated it.
Yes, and thank y'all for tuning in and listening to Kennedy's story. We appreciate y'all for your time and your attention and your ears. And if you have any interest of coming on the fitting room, we would love to have you. Feel free to just fill out the Google form. Feel free to get in contact with us, and we will make it happen. And so, until then, thank y'all so much for tuning in, and we hope that you see how you fit in the fitting room. Peace. That's it.
Awesome.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.